Ach, Mama, was ist los? What's this, a dark horse?
During the Second World War, Hollywood makes a massive contribution alongside the American government. The cinema industry mobilizes its production facilities and the talents of its writers, its technicians, and its stars. A gigantic propaganda machine is thus set up to support the war effort in the face of America's new enemies: Nazi Germany, Fascist Italy, and the Japanese Empire. This commitment by Hollywood is a unique adventure, never repeated since. At the beginning of the 1930s, Hollywood seems nevertheless to be very far from the political upheavals which are already taking place all over the world. Hollywood is first and foremost the world's entertainment capital. A world of glamour and dreams in which Californian stars are cast as demigods with whom everyone can identify. Over 80 million Americans go to the cinema each week to watch Charlie Chaplin, Gary Cooper, or the Marx Brothers. Controlling every stage of production and distribution, the big studios are masters of all they survey. 20th Century Fox, Paramount, Warner Brothers, Universal, RKO, Columbia, Metro, Goldwyn Mayer. Cinema has become the country's 8th largest industry. However, Hollywood is still strongly dependent on foreign markets. 3 out of 4 films screened throughout the world are produced by the Californian studios. In Germany, the Nazis come to power in 1933. The American studios choose the diplomatic route to avoid their films being banned in Germany and take particular care not to displease the government of the Third Reich. The majority even accept to comply with anti-Jew legislation adopted in 1935, divesting themselves of Jews working in their German offices. Moreover, Georg Giesling, consul of the Reich in Los Angeles, keeps a close watch over the big studio's projects. He intervenes several times and manages to put a stop to filming of a feature-length movie, The Mad Dog of Europe, which is hostile to the German regime. Only a handful of small independent films produced outside the studio system condemn the German dictatorship.
Censorship has raised a wall around Germany so that the truth of what is going on inside the slain republic may not escape to the outside world.
And what about the Jews, Your Excellency?
Hitler's Reign of Terror, a mix of documentary and fiction, is released as early as 1934. Though remarkable for its lack of subtlety, the film is noteworthy for being the first on American screens to show German violence against the Jews. In the same vein, 2 years later, the film I Was a Captive of Nazi Germany tells the story of a young American journalist's experiences in Germany. She gives an account of the tragic events which are devastating the country: public book burnings, racial hatred, repression. Suspected of being a spy, she is imprisoned for 4 months and is only released after intervention by the American consul. Once again, the film is marked down for its amateurism, but today enjoys documentary status. In the United States, anti-Nazi criticism is beginning to find a voice. In 1936, Jewish associations call for a boycott of German products. In Hollywood, stars such as Melvyn Douglas and John Ford join the Hollywood Anti-Nazi League, set up a few months previously. The League has nearly 4,000 members. It organizes meetings and prints information leaflets. These publications include statements such as, "The regime of Hitler is a regime of massacre and torture, fraud and conspiracy against the world." In October 1936, the Hollywood Anti-Nazi League publishes a map detailing the installation of concentration camps in Germany. It is not yet known that some of them are destined to become extermination camps. The League also regularly condemns the activities of several members of the German community who, while being American citizens, belong to the German-American Bund, a Nazi organization with its head office in New York.
We have to fight for our rights. Our German-American Bund was created for this purpose particularly, and every conscientious person of our race should realize this and give credit to its integrity. We have no time nor excuse to be idle, so march along with the Bund.
On the 9th of December 1938, 56 Hollywood celebrities meet up at the house of actor Edward G. Robinson. Together they draw up a Declaration of Democratic Independence, which they send to President Roosevelt and to Congress. They demand that all economic ties between the United States and Germany be severed immediately. Among those who sign the declaration is producer Jack Warner, one of the most violent opponents of the Nazi regime. Despite attempts at intimidation, he decides to break the law of silence and begins production of a film about the German-American Bund. He openly accuses the organization of spying on American soil.
I am a Nazi spy. I am one of thousands stationed in every part of the United States to steal the secrets of your national defense. There are spies stationed in all of the Navy yards in Brooklyn, Philadelphia, Newport News. There are Nazi agents in the aeroplane and munition factories at Bristol, Buffalo, Seattle, Boston.
Confessions of a Nazi Spy hits American cinema screens on the 6th of May 1939, 2 months after the German army invades Czechoslovakia. With war in Europe now seeming inevitable, this is the first overtly anti-Nazi film produced by a big studio.
Now, from the actual revelations of Department of Justice investigator Leon G. Turo, comes the mightiest dramatic blast of a film. The almost incredible story of foreign agents stealing our vital defense plans, of a brown network spreading hatred and terrorism to mask the treacherous plots of its leaders.
You'd think from the number of spies they've been sending over here that we're at war with Germany.
It looks more as if Germany were at war with us. Nazi boons meeting all over the nation, openly training men for street fights, teaching them how to use guns and bayonets. It's a new kind of war, but it's still war.
German troops enter Poland on the 1st of September 1939. Denmark, Norway, Holland, Belgium and France are also invaded in quick succession. In Europe in June 1940, only England has not fallen into Nazi hands. The United States has yet to become involved in the conflict. It's in this context that Charlie Chaplin's The Great Dictator, an aggressive satire on the Hitler regime, is released.
Range, 95,452.
Range, 95,452.
Yes, sir. And clear!
Fire!
Chaplin chooses not to cite Germany explicitly, calling it Tomania. But no one is fooled. He plays two roles, that of Adenoid Henkel Adolf Hitler's doppelganger, and a Jewish barber, the innocent victim of a brutal and racist dictatorship.
Das Schuten. Und das trifft das Sauerkraut mit der Schuten. Und der Leberwurst mit der Schuten. Der Flutzensack Alter mit der Schuten. Der Flutzensack der Klärten. Das Strängelächeln mit der Hultensack der Fläten. Und der Blätzensack der Helden. Besick! Besick! Das Schuten. Das Schuten.
His Excellency has just referred to the Jewish people.
Chaplin's first talking film, The Great Dictator, is one of the biggest commercial successes that year. With American films now permanently banned in the German market, several more films follow on from The Great Dictator, also criticizing Nazi ideology.
We're at war, Herr Müller.
Yes, we are at war. But can you tell me why?
Of course. To restore Germany's place in the world. We were a weak and despised nation before. Now everyone respects us. They're afraid of us.
I must remember this. They are afraid of us. I will tell my wife it will comfort her. Perhaps she won't need any medicine to sleep. Yes, I will put a sign over my son's grave. They are afraid of us.
The main characters of these films are Germans opposed to the new Nazi order. In spite of the reigning terror, they refuse to give in to the dictatorship and join the resistance movement, at the risk of being killed or sent to a concentration camp. After the succession of German victories in Europe, the American government gives serious thought to entering the war. In the autumn of 1940, it sets up the first peacetime conscription of its history. 900,000 men, including actor James Stewart, are chosen by lottery to complete a year of military service. On the silver screen, America's youth also dons its uniforms and starts training. To strengthen public patriotism, Hollywood starts producing numerous films portraying the different armed forces.
The U.S. Navy's dive bombers, the super pilots who fly America's super planes, heroically dedicating themselves to a fighting creed, to fly higher and dive faster. Now, for the first time in the Warner Brothers production Dive Bomber, this mighty air armada roars across the screen.
With a more warlike message, other films portray American pilots combating the Nazis in the British Royal Air Force. Or even the heroes of the First World War, such as Sergeant York, which earned an Oscar for Gary Cooper.
The rest of you keep under cover.
Come back here. Where are you going?
You didn't give me command.
In 1941, the majority of Americans are still opposed to joining the war. Powerful isolationist lobbies openly criticize Hollywood and the direction its production is taking. Among them, the America First Committee, with aviator Charles Lindbergh one of its most popular members. The cinema industry is even the object of a Senate inquiry, with a strong stench of anti-Semitism and anti-communism. But the inquiry comes to an abrupt halt on the 7th of December 1941, with the Japanese attack on the Pacific base of Pearl Harbor.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. I ask that the Congress declare that since the unprovoked and dastardly attack by Japan, a state of war has existed between the United States and the Japanese Empire.
With nearly 2,400 deaths and 1,200 wounded, American public opinion is deeply shocked by the human toll of Pearl Harbor and is now united behind the desire for revenge. 4 days later, on the 11th of December, Japan's German ally also declares war on the United States. President Roosevelt must now reorganize the country for the war effort. To help him in this task, he officially requests help from the cinema industry, which immediately begins close cooperation with the government.
Citizen of the United States.
Citizen of the United States.
Do hereby acknowledge.
Do hereby acknowledge.
To have voluntarily enlisted.
To have voluntarily enlisted.
This date, December 8th, 1941.
This date, December 8th, 1941.
In the Army of the United States.
In the Army of the United States.
For the duration of the war, plus 6 months.
For the duration of the war, plus 6 months.
A week after Pearl Harbor, a War Activities Committee is set up by the cinema industry. It comprises representatives of the different professional organizations, producers, distributors, artists and technicians unions. Its role is to coordinate their activities to better meet the government's communication needs. To finance the war, several large state loans are set up by the Treasury Department. And Hollywood steps up its activity in order to promote them. Magazine covers featuring Hollywood stars regularly encourage the purchase of war bonds. Bonds are permanently on sale at cinema box offices. Special evenings where purchasing a war bond includes a free cinema ticket are regularly organized.
Get 'em, folks. Come on, skip right up and get 'em. Any bonds today? Bonds of freedom, that's what I'm selling. Any bonds today? Scrape up the most you can. Here comes the freedom man, asking you to buy your share of freedom today. Many stamps today. Give kiddies. We'll be blessed if we all invest in the USA. Sammy, my Uncle Sammy.
Here comes the freedom man.
Can't make tomorrow's plan.
Not unless you buy a share of freedom today. Any stamps, any bonds today.
Many celebrities travel all over the country to meet the public. Speeches, autographs, and even appearances in specially organized shows. Large tours are organized, such as the Hollywood Victory Caravan in 1942. A train is specially chartered. It carries a large troupe of stars such as Bob Hope, Cary Grant, and Laurel and Hardy. After a first stop-off in Washington and a White House reception in the presence of Eleanor Roosevelt, the Hollywood Victory Caravan puts on shows in 14 major American cities. In 3 weeks, it raises more than $800 million. The following year, the Hollywood Bond Cavalcade raises more than $1 billion.
Buy, 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 buy a bond, and by, the bonds you buy'll bring you victory. Buy, 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 buy a bond, and you'll be standing by the victory arch when Johnny comes marching home again. Oh, you should need no request, for after all, you know that you're investing in the best till the lads come back again, back the old attack again. Buy, buy, bond. This is no time to say you've done enough. This is the time to really do your stuff. And even if you can't be a soldier in the ranks, you can be the guy to help supply the guns and planes and tanks. This is the time for you to do your best. This is no time for you to take a rest. The enemy is reeling and his morale is low. So now's the time to fall in line and deal the final blow.
Harpo Marx, Judy Garland, Mickey Rooney, Betty Hutton, Fred Astaire. To convey the government's message, Hollywood stars become entertainers once again and share touring life together. They also star in many short propaganda films, which are widely shown in cinemas.
Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas, Billy. Merry Christmas, Ginny.
Mother, where are our stockings?
Children, come and sit down a minute. Ginny, this is for you. Billy, this is for you. It's Mother's Christmas present.
War bonds.
Yes, darling, war bonds.
Well, gee, thanks a lot, Mom, but I wanted a bicycle.
I know you did, Ginny. And I know that Billy wanted a railroad. But I feel that you're both old enough to realize that your country's at war and to be willing to make sacrifices for it. Just think, if Daddy were wounded, one single war stamp might pay for the medicine that would save him from pain, even save his life.
Well, couldn't I have a bond and a bicycle?
The government also expects the cinema industry to help out with troop training. The Army Pictorial Service is reorganized at the Astoria Studio in New York State, where the Marx Brothers films had been produced up to this point. It is staffed by many Hollywood technicians, centralizing film storage and the training of combat photographers and cameramen. The main objective is to produce the many films aimed at speeding up training of new recruits joining an army where only 1 man in 50 is now a career soldier. Between 1941 and 1944, more than 1,500 of these films are produced. They are adapted to every need, be they technical or psychological.
You're going into battle. Right away, you start thinking about home. Then you start thinking about all the things that can keep you from getting back there again. The result, you're too scared to think about your job. And if you want to come back, this is one job you gotta think about.
The service's scriptwriters receive a clear instruction. All this training is leading right to the job of killing the Japs and Germans. You're learning to kill your enemy before he kills you. Not to learn is a fatal mistake.
Here it comes. This is it. Kill or be killed. Never thought I could do that. I guess I never thought anybody'd try and kill me. Well, I've got it licked now. Now I can fight.
Field Marshal von Keitel, German Chief of Staff, later admitted, "Our major miscalculation was in underestimating the Allies' quick and complete mastery of film education."
This is Snafu.
The Army Pictorial Service also produces educational cartoons, regularly featuring the character of Snafu, a clumsy recruit who quickly becomes a hit with GIs.
Snafu. Situation normal. All fouled up.
Snafu takes his name from a military expression which stands for situation normal, all fouled up. His adventures are created by the biggest names in animation: Chuck Jones, Fritz Freleng, or Bob Clampett. The films are watched by more than 4 million GIs. With their light-hearted tone, they remind soldiers of important safety advice, such as how to prevent contracting malaria in combat zones. On the West Coast, in suburban Los Angeles, another military cinema outfit is being developed independently of the Army Pictorial Service, the 1st Motion Picture Unit. The only unit exclusively made up of staff from Hollywood, it includes up to 1,100 men, artists and technicians. It is initiated by General Arnold, commander of the US Air Force, whose recruitment and training needs greatly increased during the war. To set up the unit, Arnold turns to Jack Warner, Warner hires the services of scriptwriter Owen Crump, who takes over management of the unit. As its headquarters, the first motion picture unit takes the Hal Roach Studios, where the Laurel and Hardy comedies in particular had been made. The studios are renamed Fort Roach. More than 400 films for the U.S. Air Force are made there during the war.
All right, quiet, please. Here we go.
All right, roll.
Aerial shots are supervised by Paul Mantz, one of Hollywood's greatest stuntmen. The films are mainly designed to go hand in hand with the training of crews for all types of aircraft, from fighters to bombers. Nicknamed the Hollywood Commandos, the unit's members adopt the motto, "We kill 'em with film."
Then a kick on the brakes to stop the wheel spin and gear up. Get rid of that drag fast. In takeoff emergencies, the bare belly is better than wheels. Check the light. Visual inspection later. 130 safe airspeed for power reduction. Manifold pressure first. Pilot's job, but today your instructor does it.
Check your landing gear. Up left, up right.
Without needing to go through official channels, the first motion picture unit is authorized to recruit its own staff from the big Hollywood studios. The men who sign up possess unrivaled know-how, encompassing all aspects of filming. Producers and cameramen, as well as set designers, electricians, stagehands, and experts in special effects. Shot with great realism, these films prepare crews for every extreme situation imaginable. Some of them even show airmen how to survive in hostile conditions after a crash, in the Arctic, the desert, the jungle, or in the middle of the ocean.
Brace yourselves.
The first motion picture unit also has its own animation department. This employs talents such as Frank Thomas, one of Disney Studios' greats, who had worked on Snow White, Pinocchio, and Bambi. The unit's ranks also include Captain Ronald Reagan, future President of the United States. A major Warner Brothers star, he's put in charge of recruitment. He also takes part in films, appearing as an actor or lending his voice to film commentaries. Recognition of the Japanese Zero fighter is very revealing of the first motion picture unit's strategic importance. At the start of the Pacific War, the Americans have trouble distinguishing Japanese aircraft from their own P-40 Warhawk fighters. When the first Zero is captured intact, it is immediately shipped to Fort Roach. The plane is filmed from every angle to aid recognition in flight. The sequences are inserted into this training film, which is then quickly shown to all pilots. Frank Capra, a director with several Oscars to his name and an ardent defender of American values, also produces several films for troops. Capra is entrusted with this task by Chief of Staff General Marshall in person. If the training films explain to troops how to fight, Capra's films should explain why they are fighting. Capra surrounds himself with a team of Hollywood talent, including the director Anatol Litvak, and produces a series of documentary films mainly made up of archive footage. Recognition of the Japanese Zero fighter is very revealing of the first motion picture unit's strategic importance. At the start of the Pacific War, the Americans have trouble distinguishing Japanese aircraft from their own P-40 Warhawk fighters. The unit's ranks also include Captain Ronald Reagan, future President of the United States. A major Warner Brothers star, he's put in charge of recruitment. The films are He makes widespread use of propaganda material filmed by the enemy himself as an effective means of condemning the doctrines and ambitions of the Axis dictatorships, Germany, Japan, and Italy. Let our boys hear the Nazis and the Japs shout their own claims of master race crud, he says, and our fighting men will know why they're in uniform.
Der eine wahrhaftige Weltmannschaufspartei sein. Und zweitens, Sie wollten, Herr...
Stop thinking and follow me, cried Hitler. I will make you masters of the world. And the people answered, Heil! Stop thinking and believe in me, bellowed Mussolini. And I will restore the glory that was Rome. And the people answered, Duce, Duce.
The series Why We Fight comprises 7 films. It begins with Prelude to War, which sets the scene for what is to come. On President Roosevelt's request, this first episode is screened in all American cinemas in October 1942. It is seen by tens of millions of cinema goers. Extremely well documented, the series as a whole constitutes an unprecedented propaganda tool, opposing the free world with the world oppressed at the hand of totalitarian regimes. Each film concludes in the same unambiguous way.
2 worlds stand against each other. One must die, one must live. 170 years of freedom decrees our answer.
Victory of the democracies can only be complete with the utter defeat of the war machines of Germany and Japan. General Marshall. The Why We Fight series' pedagogical dimension is also reinforced through work with the Walt Disney Studios, which produces the many maps and animated sequences included in these films. Right from the start of the conflict, the uncontested cartoon master answered the authorities' call, turning production schedules upside down. Disney's teams produced dozens of short and medium-length films dealing with current affairs. Many of them, of a very technical nature, are used for the training of military personnel. Others are targeted at a wider public, such as Victory Through Air Power, which analyzes the stakes of aerial bombing.
How long will the war last? Will our own cities and homes be bombed? Which is our #1 target? Germany or Japan? What of the supply problem? Can we overcome the submarine menace? Can air power bomb Germany into submission?
The characters created by Walt Disney are also called upon for the creation of almost 1,200 military insignia intended for all the armed forces. Images of Donald Duck, Mickey Mouse, Pluto and Dumbo appear on uniforms, tanks, boats and bombers. Walt Disney Studios also produces several short films for the Treasury Department during the war. Spirit of 43 reminds 26 million spectators of their duty to pay income tax to support the war effort.
Then you'll have to start saving right away to meet your tax payments.
Listen, chum. Spend it. It's your dough.
Yeah, it's my dough.
Aye, laddie. It's your dough. But it's your war, too. You must save for victory.
What's money for? Spend it. Shoot the works.
Nay, you must save it. Spend. Save.
Spend, save, spend, save, spend, save, spend, save, spend, spend, save.
Well, now what are you going to do? Spend for the Axis? Or save for taxes? Just remember, every dollar you spend for something you don't need is a dollar spent to help the Axis.
Production of fictional films for commercial distribution is also disrupted. More than a third of Hollywood films screened make direct reference to the conflict with both alacrity and a large dose of opportunism. Singing and dancing in uniform becomes second nature.
Saturday night is the loneliest night of the week.
A large number of screenplays are chosen on the basis of recommendations from the War Information Office. While musicals are above all a means of entertaining the public, they also heighten patriotic spirit and establish the image of an America united around its core values and confident of victory.
And another week is past. Saturday night is the loneliest night of the week. I sing the song that I sang for the memories I usually see, until I hear you at the door, until you're in my arms once more. Saturday night is the loneliest night of the week.
The Jeep goes jumping and a bumping along.
Songs by the Andrews Sisters, undisputed queens of swing, embody better than any others the wave of patriotism engulfing musicals of the period. The incredibly popular trio even produced a series of recordings just for the Allied soldiers.
We're 6 jerks in a Jeep.
Hello, all you fellas. Colonel, you sit right over there while we get out with some boogie-woogie bugle boy. How about that, huh?
He was a famous trumpet man from out Chicago way. He had a boogie style that no one else could play. He was a top man at his craft. Then his number came up and he was gone with the draft. He's in the army now, I'm going reveille. He's a boogie-woogie bugle boy of Company B. They made him blow a bugle for his Uncle Sam. He really brought him down because he couldn't jam. The captain seemed to understand. Because the next day the cap went out and drafted a band. And now the company jumps when he plays reveille. He's a boogie-woogie bugle boy of Company B. A toot, a toot, a toot-a-toot, a toot, he blows the day to the bar. In boogie rhythm, you can't blow a note unless the bass and guitar is playing with them. He makes the company jump when he plays reveille. He's a boogie-woogie bugle boy of Company B. He was a boogie-woogie bugle boy of Company B.
More than 500 war films are produced by Hollywood between 1942 and 1945. While America's soldiers are fighting on several fronts, in Europe, in Africa, or in the Pacific, these films give their families the feeling that they too are taking part in the war. However, the suffering endured by the soldiers remains largely untold. The films must above all highlight acts of heroism, the War Information Office points out. It should be shown that each individual is ready to sacrifice himself in the defense of freedom. Billed in numerous productions, Errol Flynn and John Wayne personify, each in his own way, the hero of the Second World War on American screens.
Tell the men to stand by for crash landing.
Each American victory is portrayed in one or more films. Such treatment is reserved for the first air raid over Japanese soil, led by Lieutenant Colonel Doolittle in April 1942. This feat, more symbolic than truly strategic, is dramatized in Destination Tokyo, Purple Heart, and 30 Seconds Over Tokyo with Spencer Tracy. Similarly, The story of the Marine raid led by Lieutenant Colonel Evans Carlson on Macon Island in the Pacific in August 1942 is told in the film Gung Ho with Randolph Scott. The backdrop is recreated in California, on the coast between Los Angeles and San Diego. Lieutenant Colonel Carlson himself works on secondment as technical advisor to Universal Studios. In all of these films, the violence of the confrontations is skillfully orchestrated. A Hollywood vision of war, placing emphasis on show and emotion. Above all, such scenes give the public the satisfaction of seeing the enemy die, close up, on the silver screen. With the inevitable patriotic speech at the end of the film.
Raiders, you have shown the way. Whatever anyone may do in the days ahead, this was the first offensive action to be carried out. Our victory, however, has not been without the loss of men who were like brothers to us. But what of the future for those of us who remain? Our course is clear. It is for us at this moment, with the memory of the sacrifice of our brothers still fresh, to dedicate again our hearts, our minds, and our bodies to the great task that lies ahead. We must go further and dedicate ourselves also to the monumental task of assuring that the peace which follows this Holocaust will be a just, equitable, and conclusive peace. And beyond that lies the mission of making certain that the social order which we bequeath to our sons and daughters is truly based on freedom, for which these men died.
'Twas not so long ago we sailed to meet the foe and thought our fighting days were done. We thought 'twas over then, but now we're in again to win the war that wasn't won. This time we will all make certain that this time is the last time. This time we will not say curtain till we ring it down in our own hometown. For this time we are out to finish the job we started then. Clean it up all time this time, so we won't have to do it again.
In 1943, the film This Is the Army represents the pinnacle of Hollywood propaganda. Directed by Michael Curtiz and produced by Warner Brothers, it is inspired by the work of composer Irving Berlin and tells the story of a troop of soldiers putting together a music hall show. In one famous sequence, displayed behind an army of marching infantrymen, are all the symbols of American democracy. The bald eagle, Uncle Sam, and the Star-Spangled Banner. The cinema industry decides to offer a wide selection of its output free of charge to be screened to troops as a way of boosting morale. More than 25,000 copies of films and newsreels, as well as 30,000 copies of movie shorts, are donated by Hollywood. Distribution is taken care of by the Army Pictorial Service, which, working out of 21 centers set up on every continent, dispatches the reels to even the furthest outposts. In Burma, in Tunisia, in the Philippines, films are screened wherever there is an American presence, in the most bizarre places, in makeshift settings, in the middle of the jungle, in the open air. An essential precaution: protect yourself against mosquitoes in the regions where malaria represents a constant danger. Nearly 5,000 projectors are used. Film previews are even taken into combat zones. And the soldiers often watched films before the general public has had the chance to see them. For 2 hours every evening, the soldiers can set aside their homesickness by watching America on the silver screen.
The American soldier sees these pictures and feels a touch of home and the thought of those who sent them. They are his favorite recreation, often his only recreation. The reward of you who have given them is the everlasting gratitude of the American soldier, fighting all over the world for the continuance of our way of life.
United under the flag. A veritable home front is set up in America, where the war is played out, this time without uniform. The cinema industry relentlessly conveys the government's message to the population. A large portion of the responsibility for explaining the program rests on your shoulders, says the Information Ministry. You must supply the inspiration that will line the whole nation behind the production front. The job is urgent. It is tremendous in proportions.
On this line, men work night and day, united in a solemn purpose. Production now is not a promise, but a fact. Gigantic, real, a solemn answer, and a pledge beyond recall. From these vast stockpiles, materials now flow in such a way that scores of sub-assemblies reach their proper place each at the proper time. Steel, rubber, aluminum and tin, forgings, moldings, castings, all will flow into the finished weapon to build one engine of destruction.
Our boys on the fighting fronts are worried. They want to know that you'll stay on the job with them until final victory is won. So don't quit your war job. You see, they won't quit when the news is good. They won't quit until they've won. And they want you with them, getting that last plane, last tank, last gun for final and complete victory.